More endocrine. Let's take a look at what we're going to be covering right now. It's TSH. We talked about it in general, and we said that TSH comes from the anterior pituitary to act on the thyroid gland to release T3 and T4. Let's get a little more specific. So T3 is also known as liothyronine, T4 is thyroxine. Who has more? T4 has more, but who is more potent and stronger? T3 is stronger. So this is where the thyroid is located. It sits right about here, right under the thyroid cartilage. It's very vascular. So if you need to do a thyroidectomy, which is a removal of the thyroid gland, would it be easy or a little bit difficult? It would be more challenging because you have to deal with possible blood loss from injuring and nicking some of the arteries and veins that surround it. This is a cross-section of the thyroid gland. We're looking at the cells that produce T3 and T4. There are two types of cells that I want you to know. There are follicular cells and there are parafollicular cells, also known as C cells. So C cells, parafollicular cells, and follicle cells sit by each other. So follicle are these ones. These ones are called follicular cells. Anything that is alongside a cell is called para. So these are parafollicular cells, also known as C cells, because they release something called calcitonin. Calcitonin is used to regulate calcium. So let's do that mnemonic first before we do T3, T4 from the follicular cells. Okay, so there are two. This is the thyroid gland. So the thyroid gland is shaped like a shield. On the back of the thyroid gland are a pair of thyroid glands. So we call them parathyroids. So these ones that I've drawn on the side are called parathyroid glands, and they release something called PTH, parathyroid hormone. Calcitonin comes from the thyroid itself, and how they regulate calcium is this. Parathy makes it high, calcitol makes it low. Parathy makes it high, calcitol makes it low. Parathy makes it high, calcitol makes it low. Parathy makes it, calcitol makes it. So parathyroid hormone, PTH. Parathy makes it high. It makes blood calcium levels high. Calcitol makes it low, so it decreases blood calcium levels. How does it do that? There's a couple of ways. We normally do this in bones, but I'm just going to review it for here. So if I have a bone, yes, this is a kind of a bone. That's as good as it gets. And then I have, let's say this is the GI tract. It's all the stuff that you eat, like calcium you're going to eat or drink in milk. And then the kidney is the color red. And so what happens is parathy makes it high. Parathy steals from the bone. It steals from the kidney. What does it steal? Calcium. And it also helps to steal calcium from the GI tract. But how it does that is it actually activates vitamin D from the kidney, and vitamin D itself encourages stealing or taking calcium from the GI tract. So parathy makes it, calcitol makes it, parathy makes it, calcitol makes it. Parathy makes calcium in the blood high, and calcitonin makes calcium in the blood low. So where do you find parathyroid hormone? What gland? Parathyroid gland. Where do you find calcitonin? In the thyroid gland. So let's take a step back and look at the follicular cell and the parafollicular cell of the thyroid gland. There we go. We took a look at it. Let's move on. So what did I say? Parafollicular cells are also known as C cells. They release calcitonin. What is calcitonin used for? Calcitonin makes it good. So calcitonin decreases calcium levels in the blood by pushing it into the bone, removing it from the kidney. Not commonly secreted in humans because what we do is we use parathyroid hormone to either make it high. If you increase parathyroid, you increase calcium in the blood. If you decrease parathyroid, you decrease calcium in the blood. So again, this is the thyroid gland where we store all of our T3 and T4. And who makes it? The follicular cells make T3 and T4. So this is how you would actually bring in iodine. In order to make T3 and T4, T3 and T4 stand for triiodinated and tetraiodinated. These molecules have iodine. So if your diet is deficient in iodine, then you're not able to make T3 and T4. What happens to your metabolism? It'll become slower, right? So you're not going to have a high metabolism. And you could have something that they call goiter. Goiter is an enlargement of the thyroid gland. We'll see that in a few slides. So in order to transport iodine into the cell, what hormone from the anterior pituitary has to be released? TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone, triggers the movement of iodine into the cell. It diffuses across and then combines with something else to form T3 or T4. Who has more? T4, but who is stronger? T3. How do I get T3 from T4? All I do is break off one of the iodines and then you have T3. So these are some of the steps. Like I said, iodine pump needs TSH. If I don't have TSH, I don't have iodine, then I'm not going to make T3 or T4. That's what it looks like in terms of structure. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 iodine here versus 1, 2, and 3 iodine there. So TRH, TSH, where does TRH come from? Hypothalamus. Where does TSH come from? Anterior pituitary. And where does T3, T4 come from? The thyroid gland. What is T3, T4 used for? Metabolism. So thyroid gland disease. Goiter by itself just means enlargement of the thyroid gland. Endemic goiter is when I lack iodine in the diet. So how would you treat someone that does not have iodine in their diet? Give them iodine, right? So that's why in third world countries, if they have lacking of iodine, it's because they're missing it in their diet. But what we do in America and a lot of the developed countries is we add iodine to our salt so that you constantly will have an ample supply of iodine. If I have an autoimmune disease called Hashimoto thyroiditis, just means that you're going to have hypothyroid because you're destroying the gland itself, so you're not producing T3, T4. That's why they call it hypothyroid versus hyperthyroid. This is goiter. It's simply, not simple, it is the enlargement of the thyroid gland. You can think of it as attack of the giant goiters. How do you treat? What do you think they're giving her an injection of? Iodine to help alleviate the goiter. So here is a list of hypo versus hyper. When you think of hypo, you think slow moving, you think low metabolism. So if you look at the signs and symptoms, it says slow, decreased activity, sleepiness, lethargy, what's happening to you right now, slow heart rate, constipation. So what's the opposite? What is hyperthyroid? When somebody is really, really thin and they're really, really active and they have hyperthyroid, they go, run until they die in their graves. Okay, so hyperthyroid is the opposite. It's fast, it's restless, irritable, nervousness, tremors, easy fatigability because they're so excited. The same thing as hypothyroid because it's an off balance. You hear me? We're going on and on. So understand the difference. Hypothyroid, there's a couple of names that you need to know. Cretinism, myxedema, Hashimotos, iodine deficiency. How do you treat iodine deficiency? You give them iodine. Hyperthyroid, Graves' disease, hyperthyroidism, thyrotoxicosis is all going to be fast. So hypothyroid, congenital. Let's take a look at cretinism. And then again, cretinism. So hypothyroid, how do you treat them? Well, you give them some kind of thyroid hormone supplementation. What is it? T3 and T4. What is T4 also known as? thyroxine. So you give them something like levothyroxine. And this is a before and after picture of somebody that has hypothyroid, and then they're probably treated with levothyroxine, which is T4. Why not T3? T3 has a little bit more complications than T4 does. And the body has the ability to convert T4 when it needs it to T3, the more active form. So here's hyperthyroid. When you're on the thinner side, you're more active, you're really, really hyper. It could be from being hyperthyroid. So exophthalmos is the bottom one, see? It's a protrusion of the eyes, characteristic of hyperthyroid. What are these pairs here? These are called parathyroids, and what do they release? Parathyroid hormone. Parathy makes it high, good. What makes what high? Calcium levels, where? In the blood. And calcitonin makes it low. So where do you find calcitonin? Where is it made? In the thyroid gland. From what cells? C cells, also known as parafollicular cells. What do follicular cells make? T3 and T4. Who makes more? T4, but who is more active, more potent? T3. What is T4 also known as? Thyroxine. What is T3 also known as? Liothyronine. Very good. So here's some more images of chief cells and principal cells that make PTH or parathyroid hormone. So what hormones are released from the thyroid again? Follicular cells, T3, T4, who has more? T4, who is more potent? T3, what is T4 also known as? Thyroxine. What is T3 also known as? Liothyronine. C cells, parafollicular cells, release calcitonin. Calcitonin makes it low. Parathy makes it high. Very good. So calcitonin decreases calcium levels in the blood, whereas parathyroid increases calcium levels in the blood. We're almost done. So T3, T4, metabolic function. This would be a feedback. If I have too much T3, T4, what do I want to do for TRH and TSH? Let's write this on the board. So hypothalamus releases TRH, which acts on the anterior pituitary to release TSH, which then acts on your target organ to make T3 and T4. If I have too much of these, my metabolism is revving up. I don't need that much of it. So I want to do a negative feedback, decrease TRH, decrease TSH, and what is the result that it should happen is that T3 and T4 should go down. If they go down, what happens to TSH and TRH? They're going to go up. So the cycle continues over and over and over again, and this entire network, this entire pathway is called negative feedback. Got it? Good. Moving on. Calcium balance, we just said. And we're almost done. Let's take a little break and I'll see you soon.